Save the Semantics, episode 301. It is March 24th, 2025. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. Recording this on a Monday evening. Today's just got super hot. It felt like a summer day, which is, quite out of the look, can I even say anything is out of the ordinary anymore in terms of the weather? You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, whatever. This is normal. This is normal. This is the new normal. Whatever. It was hot, man. It was hot. Like, I wasn't expecting that kind of heat. Tomorrow's also going to be pretty toasty as well. But yeah, I just quite the change in pace. It was, it was still pretty, chilly. It felt kind of getting into proper spring, if you want to call it that. But yeah, today was, and I guess tomorrow are going to be kind of the outliers for that. But, outside of that, it's been nice out. So I've been able to kind of enjoy my time outdoors when I've been able to. But yeah, so that's been nice. We got a pretty interesting week up ahead. It's been quite a minute. It's been quite a while since I've really talked about anything gaming related. But here we are. So next week, we are expecting the Switch 2 Direct on Thursday, I believe, next Thursday or Wednesday. I don't know. It's on the 2nd. Let me just confirm that. It is going to be on Wednesday. Weird day for that, because usually when Nintendo does announcements, it's like Tuesday or Thursday, but no, this is gonna be a little different. Obviously, I guess just timing wise and everything, it's like you don't necessarily want to do the first, because then like people are gonna be like April Fools and stuff like that. Like, I don't know how serious Japanese companies take that, but considering that American audiences do make up like a pretty large chunk of their their gamer the gamer base, I guess maybe they just don't want to detract too much from that, so maybe that was something they took into consideration. Anyways, there have been some rumors about a regular direct coming up this week as well, so that's pretty exciting. I think it was heavily hinted or sort of speculated that there could have been or should have been a direct in February, but that was kind of pushed off a little bit. Like, we just heard nothing about that after kind of just like a few rumors here and there. And so it is interesting though that they are doing this like right before the Switch 2 Direct. I'm very curious as to how, if obviously if the rumors hold up to be true, but it seems to be pretty well based in terms of the sources. But I am curious to see why, the reasoning kind of for like the timing and that kind of thing, right? Obviously Xenoblade X just released, which I will talk about. I just started playing that recently. I've had just an incredible time with X, to be honest. I have fully just dove into it over this past weekend. Like, that's just been what I've been kind of doing on my off time, and that's been awesome. So I'll get into that a little bit, but outside of that, there are still some, just regular Switch releases that I think are kind of still left on the table that could be announced for pretty soon. There's the Suikoden remasters that should be coming up fairly soon as well, so I'm sure they would include that on this sort of rumored direct. And I'm there might be some surprises as well. Like, I did speculate a little while back when probably back in like late January or early February, when I was sort of maybe anticipating a direct in February. That didn't happen. That there might be some kind of surprises here and there. It would be a really great kind of swan song kind of thing. I mean, you could argue that Xenoblade X is kind of the swan song for the Switch, but it could even go off with a even more of a bang, and then transition like really smoothly and really strong into the Switch 2, right? I mean, it is crazy how quickly we've just come to this point. Like, it did feel like quite a while until we got to here, but a lot quicker than I just sort of expected. I don't know, I guess just the time has just completely flown by, which is, it's good and bad, but I mean, good in this sense, because you remembering just like because I remember watching like when I saw the Switch 2 announcement trailer. I watched, I think, the UK version of it, and so in the UK, basically outside of the US, which is generally the case for a lot of like denominations, just measurement units, all that shit. Outside of the US, most of the world goes by date, month, and then year. So when it read out the date for the direct, the Switch 2 direct, it was 2/4/25. And I read it as February 4th, and I'm like, oh shit, that's going to be really, really soon. And then, the actual date is just sort of actually, it came to be, it was actually April 2nd. And, I was reading the date wrong. So, that was, it was a little disappointing at first to have to wait that long, but we're here now. Just a little bit of time until it gets announced. I'm pretty excited. I think this sort of anticipation and just sort of the build up to this point, I think has been kind of slowly creeping in a little bit more as we've gotten closer. Honestly, I hadn't even really considered it until like the past week or so. I'm like, oh shit, we're getting close to kind of like a potential blowout of sorts, So I'm happy that we're here. We can finally kind of delve into it. We can finally see potentially what games are going to be, potential launch titles, all that stuff, the specs, whatever, I have been, so, because I've been playing X, and I've been, and I've talked about this quite a lot, about just me and my sort of me potentially kind of withholding buying the Switch or the Switch 2 until I have like a full sense of the price and everything like that. I still am on the fence of that in terms of how soon I'm gonna get the system. But I am leaning a lot more to just getting it straight up. Not at launch, not necessarily at launch, but a lot sooner rather than later. I mean, look, the Switch is basically my favorite console at this point. I've a lot of my favorite gaming experiences have come from this console, whether it's playing older titles that I've never played before, or whatever Switch exclusives that have been on there. It's just been just a great overall experience with it, but I am not at all, clouded in terms of my judgment and my view of the fact that the system is super old. It is, I can argue that I don't put a lot of stock into things like graphics or fidelity and that kind of thing. But it's not just that as well. My biggest issue, and I've talked about this before, my biggest issue with the original Switch is the Joy-Cons and how flimsy they are. When I went to purchase Xenoblade X, I actually bought some additional Joy-Con because I was just like, I cannot handle it. Wasn't like stick shifts, like in the case of my old left Joy-Con, which was having the issue. It wasn't a case of like sticks like drifting or anything like that, but it just got worn down over time. It wasn't like connecting properly. And I didn't make an attempt to try to fix it. Some of it is my fault because I did try to fix it, but it didn't work out because I'm not someone who's good at troubleshooting. And so I was just like, I'm just, I really want to play X, and I want to experience that with like a usable and viable controller. So I had to kind of just get it. Which is frustrating because it's like I feel I've gone through my share of Joy-Cons at this point. And I think I've kind of gotten to the point where I just don't know if I have the patience anymore to either get just cave in and get a new Joy-Con, which I did, or go through the process of like fixing it up myself. Like I've done that. I think I'm kind of ready to, obviously I'm still gonna, I'm gonna have my original Switch, of course. But I am ready to move on to the next thing. I'm really feeling that. I think this might be kind of what pushes me over the edge to kind of just commit to potentially getting the system at launch. And it's something that I have really continued to sort of consider. So yeah, I think I'm just ready. I think I'm just ready to move on. And I think, well, obviously the the price might still dissuade me depending on how much it's going to be, right? If it is significant, I'll probably just hold off on it. But I think what will persuade me rather is going to be the games that are going to be included, how much of a boost it's going to be, with older games, bringing them into onto the Switch 2. Like if I can play any of the Xenoblade games and there's like a huge like performance boost, I would be very happy to just kind of indulge in that a little bit. I think next week when they do announce it is going to be kind of when I will kind of make my decision whether I want to, move forward with pre-ordering or whatever. I don't know. I don't know exactly if they're going to announce pre-orders or whatever. Do I want to be involved in that whole scram of being kind of the first to try to get my hands on the system? I don't exactly know. And my hope is for just people in general who do want to buy the system at launch that there is enough stock, right? I believe that was like a pretty big issue when it came to the original Switch's release, was that they had not considered to, they hadn't considered the amount of people that were actually going to try to get it earlier on. It seems like just based on reports from earlier, it seems like they are a lot more considering just making far more extra stock, which I think is good. And there's going to kind of avoid issues with like scalping and that kind of thing. Scalping is still going to exist, unfortunately, just in this kind of environment that we're in. There are just going to be people that they're going to try to take advantage of the system and try to get their hands as soon as they can, and then, try to resell it at like a ridiculous price. There are going to be people like that. There's always going to be kind of bad actors. But hopefully just having more supply will kind of curb a little bit of that issue. But yeah, it's going to come down to next week. I'm really looking forward to it. I think this is something that, a lot of more people have been waiting for it than I have, for sure. I was not like an early adopter of the Switch, right? I was like a little late to the cycle in terms of getting my own. So I know people have been just kind of really just waiting and just really just been patient for an upgrade. So this is going to be, I think, and this is really the first time that I've really been involved in a console release in terms of me being, up to date in terms of the news and the release schedule and that kind of thing, right? Up to this point, like I was a kid and I just was not really, caring too much about that. I hadn't really, paid too much attention to other console launches until this point. So this is going to be really like the first time that I'm sort of a part of that in a way, and that's kind of exciting and something to look forward to. Yeah, it'll be cool. And just get like a full sense of just sort of this, what's to come. Obviously, because it is an iteration of the prior generation, there might be a little less excitement because you sort of know what to expect. The novelty of a Switch no longer has the same effect when it initially released 7-8 years ago, or announced 7-8 years ago. So that effect might not be as strong, but to me, because I hadn't really been involved in kind of that hype cycle, it'll be a new kind of thing. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then just again, later this week, if the rumors and all that are true, we're gonna have some more new games to look forward to that we can play on both the original Switch and on the Switch 2. So it's kind of a win-win in that case, right? So a lot of things to really kind of be excited about for these upcoming weeks, just in the gaming space. It's been a while since it's felt kind of dry on my end. Really, I haven't been playing anything up until this point, up until I finally got Xenoblade X. And I've it's been kind of a dry season in a way up until now. So now that we're getting more news, we're getting to the point where we are getting these potential direct and confirmed direct, along with some other news going on in other gaming spaces. Like, I think it's it's a good time to kind of get back into it. I really want to delve into. I really want to talk about X. I just don't know how much time I want to dedicate to it right now. I'll just give like a brief little summary of how I've been enjoying it so far. I've just really. It feels so good to just delve into another Monolith Soft world. Something that I hadn't experienced before. I am familiar with the story. I've seen some other streamers play it in the past, but it is a completely different thing to experience it on your own. And the joy, the overall enjoyment, I think, that I get out of this is very much not the story, but the exploration, the gameplay, which I'm still trying to kind of get used to. It's a little different from the other three in the series, and I just have been really just diving right into it. It feels very much like how I kind of experienced games like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, which I think are kind of really the only other open world. I know people argue that Xenoblade is open world. It's open to an extent. I would say open areas versus open world. Open world would sort of, I think there are, it depends on whatever. It's subjective. It's definition based, but I would consider the mainline Xenoblade games to be open area. So these areas are interconnected, but there are clear like barriers in between each section of the game. In X, everything is interconnected, so it is a true kind of open world game where everything is just sort of seamlessly connected, which is pretty crazy considering just the quantity, just the size of the world, the things you can do, the detail that's involved. I mean, it's incredible that this game is running on Switch, and it was also running on the Wii U as well. It's just such a crazy feat. I think you can obviously look at the numbered games in the series for Xenoblade and just really just be really just marvel at how Monolith was able to kind of pull that off. But this is to a whole nother level. I think that this, in terms of just the scope of it and the sheer just volume and everything about it, I think this is the most kind of and on just on a technical scale as well. I think this is the most impressive thing, and I'm only maybe 10-ish hours in, or maybe a little less than that into the game, but I can already sort of feel that this is the most impressive thing that Monolith Soft has done in their tenure. Just it's I'm still, I've barely scratched the surface in terms of just the scale of the world and that kind of thing, right? And I know it's going to take a while to get to the point where I can ride around on the scales or the mechs, which I'm very excited to do. But it's just there's so much there's detail in every area of the game. There's a distinct sense of like distinct sense of character in different areas of the game. The music just accompanies you traveling around so well. It's just an adventure. Like, this is the kind of the pure essence of that. The focus is not the story this time, as I've said, and I'm okay with that. I really am. I know what to kind of expect from this, right? I think it's just the fact that you as a player can really just soak up and soak in the atmosphere of you just running around in these crazy areas, whether it's these I don't know, these monolithic no pun intended structures that exist in these wastelands, to kind of the tropical forests that kind of remind me a bit of something from Avatar. It's so well thought of and just executed, and I'm just so excited to delve into it even more. I honestly was not. Well, okay, maybe I was expecting a little bit because I have played every other Xenoblade game, but I'm hooked. I'm really hooked to this, and I really just want to kind of continue progressing, continue upgrading. There's a deep kind of leveling system, deep kind of upgrade system as well. There's a lot of different paths you can take to kind of customize your character. You can also play as the other characters as well. I don't know if you were able to do that in the original Wii U version of the game, but there's a lot that you could really do, and yeah, as I said, I just scratched the surface of this, and I can't wait to delve back into it when when I do have the time. But yeah, it's good to be back into the world of a Xenoblade game, and it just brings me, it's just so good. It's so good. I've been listening to this soundtrack for the longest time, and so now that I'm listening to it while I'm playing the game, it's just it's so good. It's such a different flavor to it, you know what I mean? But yeah, I do want to kind of get into it more in terms of just talking about it as I do progress into the game and that kind of thing. Obviously, there aren't going to be like a ton of things to necessarily discuss in terms of the story. There is the additional content that they have, so maybe something interesting kind of pops up there. I don't know how much of it I'm really gonna be like, deciphering and that kind of thing, right? Because it's not. That was not the focus this time around. but I do kind of want to maybe talk about it in a similar way to how I did with Tears of the Kingdom, where just the moment to moment gameplay, where I was doing, kind of doing one mission, and then I get kind of dragged off into doing another mission, or I see a monster that I kind of want to fight. Like there's just a lot of things kind of pulling you in different directions. I think that's something that maybe I'll get into as I kind of further progress into the game. But yeah, really just a really good first sort of impression of it so far. Yeah, it's a good time to kind of be a gamer, a good time to get back into it. There's just switching gears a little bit because it's been a while since I've talked about gaming, anything gaming related. So I really just wanted to get into that a little bit. But so over this past weekend, the Warriors have been kind of a little up and down. A little bit. They lost against the Hawks on Sunday, which was a little bit of a disappointing loss, but I think it's something that you can kind of just scratch off and move on to the next thing. Although I will say the Clippers are making quite a bit of just kind of gaining some steam and gaining some ground right now. So that is a bit of a worry right now. I've been hoping that they would lose, but they just haven't. They've just continued to win, so that's been annoying and kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. College basketball right now, the NCAA right now is in the Sweet 16. So I didn't really watch a ton over the past week or anything like that, but I managed to catch some highlights here and there. But yeah, we're really, there's only a few weeks remaining in the regular season. It's gonna be a really tight race to the finish especially for the Western Conference. And with Curry out right now, I'm hoping that the Warriors can kind of hold water, get some good wins. They do have a pretty lax schedule right now where they're getting like 2 games or 2 days of break in between games. So hopefully they can kind of take advantage of that to rest and that kind of thing and recuperate. And hopefully Steph can kind of come back relatively soon, but obviously not rush back in. And I hope that the rest of the team can kind of pick up the slack a little bit, because I didn't watch the Atlanta game, really. I watched some bits and pieces there. Wasn't really the best performance, obviously. Hopefully they can kind of take care of business against, I believe they're playing the Raptors next, or maybe, I don't remember. No, they're not playing the Raptors. They just played the Raptors. Whoever they play next on this road trip that they're on. It's the Heat. That's right, because they're gonna do a little tribute video for Jimmy, which is interesting. I don't know how well that's gonna go over for both parties, both Miami and Jimmy, because it just ended on very poor terms. Not at all like Jimmy's not at all innocent of that. But I hope that, I don't know. I hopefully that is like hopefully the Warriors can at least be able to kind of do something, maybe kind of a Jimmy revenge game sort of thing. But yeah, Miami's been just faltering recently. They were on like a 10-game losing streak, which is crazy, I did see that Andrew Wiggins had like a 42-point game recently, so that's good to see. I don't need to see that against the Warriors, but good to see him doing well individually. But yeah, so that'll be that'll be the next game tomorrow, I believe. So we'll be tuning into that. Or is it Wednesday? It might be Wednesday. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's been kind of a sort of a slower start to the week, I would say, in terms of basketball, just not the same level of fervor, I would say. I think it was just the fact that the start of like the NCAA tournament kind of coincided with all of the other basketball stuff that was happening in the NBA. So it just was kind of it was a different level of excitement, I would say, a different level of energy. But yeah, as it kind of continues on in the tournament, also Baylor lost as well, and I was kind of picking them to win. Probably not the best bet, but I was like, VJ Edgecombe, man, he's that guy. But that didn't really turn out. So yeah, they lost to Duke yesterday. So that pick is my bracket is absolutely screwed. Like it is just completely done at this point. So yeah. Other than that, obviously I'll kind of update on more things that happen with basketball. I'll talk about hopefully fingers crossed the direct does happen on Thursday. That'll be something that I will want to talk about either on Thursday or this weekend. So I'll do a little two-parter this week just to kind of keep things just connected and that kind of thing. So until Thursday or Friday, that's going to do it for now. And we'll catch up very soon. All right, recording this on March 27th, 2025. It has been an interesting week. So just to get right into it, the rumors, the aforementioned rumors of a Switch Direct, or just rather a Nintendo Direct, mostly focusing on Switch 1 games, turned out to be true. And it happened earlier today, happened this morning. I was able to catch it, not live. I missed like the first 10 minutes or so because I just slept past it a little bit. Because I was planning on getting up a little earlier to watch it. Honestly, I didn't really, I think I'm happy with the additional, a little bit amount of sleep that I did get. But yeah, it turned out to be fairly lackluster. You know what I mean? I think it was, pretty as maybe average to below average in my opinion. There was nothing really on there that really wowed me or caught my attention. Some nice surprises for sure, but nothing that I personally would want to pick up. I think there were some things that I think a lot of people were sort of expecting to see, considering that this was the final direct, the final direct focused on Switch games. But it turned out to not be true. I think my biggest takeaway from this is the fact that it was so closely tied, or so closely, the timing was just less than a week from the Switch 2 Direct, which is next Wednesday, right? And I think the big sort of connecting piece, I would say, that really stood out to me was this piece that they had talking about the digital cartridges, the digital game cartridges that you could sort of share between, other Switches that you have, and then also like people that are part of like the family plan or whatever. I think that's like the biggest sort of indication of what backwards compatibility is going to look like for Switch 2, right? Obviously with the physical game cartridges themselves, that's a pretty obvious sort of, you can just use those Switch 1 cartridges and then put them in to Switch 2, right? That was kind of, that was sort of explained, I would say, in the Switch 2 kind of announcement trailer, I think, right? Just sort of announcing that backwards compatibility and then also digital compatibility as well. So that's, I think, what the transition is going to look like if you want to be able to play your digital library. I'm assuming it's not the only way to be able to transfer like game data over to the Switch 2, right? Assuming that the old kind of system remains true, which it seems like, it's not going to they're not going to archive the old system where you can, transfer your data from one Switch to another. I think it's more so just being able to just do it on like a game to game basis, as opposed to, I don't know, system transfers over from like your entire library over from one system to the other, right? But yeah, it was interesting to kind of see that. I'm curious how like effective that's going to be, and how, if people are going to use that really to the kind of their advantage. It does seem sort of useful to kind of lending it out to people, but I think it does seem like that you need to kind of be in the vicinity of someone to be able to kind of transfer that, as opposed to an online kind of lend. I think it's so that might be a little inconvenient for some people. I'm not exactly sure. But maybe that provides some more flexibility for people that want to be able to kind of share that with others, right? Share games with others. But yeah, that was kind of like, that was really the biggest thing that I sort of got from this direct. Really nothing else really stuck out. I mean, I guess I will talk about the games that were sort of the bigger announcements. Two franchises that have been kind of dormant for quite some time, Tomodachi Life and then Rhythm Heaven. They both got games announced. I've never played either of those games. It's not really exactly my, not my cup of tea necessarily. Tomodachi Life does seem really funny. And I don't know, maybe it's something that I could get into because it's just like a fun little quirky time. But it might also be a case where I'm okay just sort of watching other people play it, right? We'll see. I have watched some videos of the original Tomodachi Life on the 3DS, and there were definitely some entertaining moments from it. So I'm sure that there's going to be some good stuff that comes out of it. For this Switch version, it does suck that it's like 2026, which is a pretty far off in the future, right, for an announcement, but it is what it is, I guess. I don't know, it feels like and same with Rhythm Heaven too. It's like these games are like, maybe they still want it, the sort of the company sort of approach is to have the Switch One continue to have some sort of library, right? Obviously, with the backwards compatibility, allows a little bit more for that. And so, if they do kind of focus on having games specific to Switch, that, kind of expands the audience, right? Not everybody's going to get a Switch 2 at launch or even this year, right? Just pricing and everything like that. So it makes sense to kind of just continue it moving forward, despite there being a new console coming out very soon. Outside of that, those two games, they showed a little bit more of Metroid Prime. I was like, all right, it's cool. It looks good. I think I do want to play Prime Remastered first before I get into that. I was hoping that there might be a announcement for Prime 2 and Prime 3 Remaster. That would be kind of nice to kind of get through this, have that trilogy all on one system, and then just kind of being able to play that before playing Prime 4. That's kind of, I don't know how integral it is to know the story of the Prime series before getting into it. But unfortunately, we didn't see that. And just other stuff, really, nothing else really, was that they sort of, they reaffirmed that Dragon Quest 1 and 2 was coming out this year. They didn't give a date for that. No real specific dates for a lot of the games, really, except for the ones that are kind of like in the sizzle reel, which I don't have really any interest in playing any of those. But yeah, it was a pretty, I don't know, it was an interesting one. I was hoping for at least like one kind of heavy hitter. like I was really hoping for like a Fire Emblem, the Fire Emblem remake that's been heavily rumored. I don't even know if it's real. I don't know if it's real. It's either not real and it doesn't exist, or they're maybe saving it for like a Switch 2 release, which I don't know like if that would really fit into a Switch 2 kind of exclusive. You know what I mean? Like I like a Fire Emblem remake of a game. Like Valentia, Shadows of Valentia was excellent, but it was for 3DS. It was on like the back end of the 3DS's lifespan, and it was not I don't know. I don't believe it was meant to be this potential focal point or a system seller or anything like that. Of course not, right? In that kind of similar vein, I don't think a Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War is gonna be really something that draws in the larger crowd. I mean, maybe, you never know, right? I mean, Xenoblade 2 was released in the launch year of the Switch, and you know that turned out to be, you know, I mean, as of now, it is the most successful Xenoblade in the series. So having more eyes on it does help, but it is a completely different context because the first year of the Switch, you are, you know, there's not really, there wasn't like a ton of like first party platform RPG games, right? Like Xenoblade 2 was kind of the only one at that point. Obviously, as you started going later in the years, you got much more, and now you're to the point where the Switch is flooded with so many of those. So it's like, I don't know if it would be in the best interest of Nintendo, if this thing was even real, to try and release this alongside like a Mario Kart or whatever. You know, I don't think they would get the same release date necessarily, but I just don't see it. I unfortunately don't see it. It would be great to see. Maybe like there is still a chance that it gets released on Switch later down the line as a potential kind of, you know, one of the last sort of Switch exclusive games, right? You know, again, backwards compatible, so it's not going to be exclusive, but you know what I mean. Made for the original Switch game, and I don't know. It sucks. I wish, I don't know, man. I've kept hearing about this rumor for a while now, and it just has not come to fruition. So at this point, I just kind of am like, I don't know. Like it feels like there's just not really. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what the direction is going to be. It's like, it feels like the next thing is just going to be like a brand new Fire Emblem, right? I think that kind of makes the most sense in terms of it slotting in as a major title for Switch 2. So I don't know. It feels a little like the boat has sailed in regards to it announcing at this point. The same goes for obviously the Zelda remasters of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. I mean, that ship has sailed like quite some time, right? But I feel like this kind of feels like the very last moment that they really could have made a bit of a splash, right? Unfortunate. I really feel like they could have just ported it like that. That could have, I really like if they ported it, it would have sold. Like, people are gonna buy. I would buy it. I would love to replay those games. But I don't know. Is it another case of them holding off for Switch 2? I don't know, man. For like a 15, 20-year-old game, for 20-year-old games, like I don't. Do they really want to try to use that as a potential piece of their next hardware launch? I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see what they do next week, man. I mean, it's going to be big. Obviously, we're going to get Mario Kart. That's kind of like the biggest confirmation at this point. Outside of that, I don't know. Like, third party I think you can kind of expect that. But yeah, outside like other first party platform games, I'm not exactly sure. I'm just gonna try to be like sort of try to leave that off the table, because I was, after they announced, this direct yesterday, I did have like, maybe that it was my fault for wanting to get a little bit more, because they've had some like pretty good presentations recently. I think last year's June direct was one of the best ones, right? I mean, they announced Mario, Luigi, Mario Party, Zelda, Metroid Prime. Like that was just like, for like first party games, that was like an excellent. And they had some other stuff sprinkled in there too. So it was just overall like a very good showcase, and I think that got people pretty excited for the remainder of 24. But for this year, going into Switch 2, I was maybe hoping for like a little bit more. There was just like, it just didn't really exactly get to a point where I was like, okay, I think it could have used like maybe one more decent, like a little, like a stronger game thrown in there. One more just kind of remake that has a little bit more juice to it, a little bit more interest, something that caters to me. I mean, I literally just got Xenoblade X, so I really can't complain that much, right? I really can't complain at all, honestly. I'm very spoiled as a Xenoblade fan, so I can only get so much, right? But yeah, I think just for the general, maybe for general audiences slash more, people that want maybe a little bit more, I think just one more title, I think, would have made this into a decent showcase. But I think that it's cool that these other franchises that haven't had games in like over a decade have finally gotten something. So I'm happy for those fans. But yeah, overall, just a kind of a not the most interesting presentation, right? And that's okay. I mean, it doesn't always have to be like a banger or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, next week is the big one. I kind of want to do a separate, I was thinking of maybe doing a predictions thing today, and I know I just, I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit. I'm trying not to expect too much. But I do kind of want to do a little prediction thing, because I think that might be fun, before that. So maybe I'll save that for next week. But yeah, I think it was, the fact that we got a direct, just in general is it's cool. It's a little treat, I guess, on top of the fact that we are getting the Switch 2 direct next week. So it's okay. It's really not the worst thing. I just sort of, kind of switching gears, no pun intended. I have not had the chance to watch really any basketball this week. Like, I have just had no time for that. And plus the Warriors have not had really any games this week at all. They've had some stretches, like 2 days in between games. And they haven't really been playing all that well either, with Steph's absence, which has been a little discouraging, I would say. The hope was that maybe Jimmy could kind of help lift some of that weight, with Steph out of the lineup, but that has not been the case. And I think the other players have also suffered as well. I just really, it's a little frustrating that they rely on Steph's kind of gravity so much on this team. Like, it just, like, it's so Steph centric, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of annoying. Like, I'm like, guys, like, you just cannot rely on him entirely. Like, it should be a lot more of a cohesive unit. And I understand that
he is, he's been integral to the franchise and the team for, his, the entirety of his time on with the Warriors and everything. And I completely get that. The offense was built around him. The team was built around him. I totally understand that, but like, let's do a little bit more. I want there to be some more, just raise the level of play a little bit more. And then we got some bad news recently too, regarding, Gary Payton, who's out. I forgot the exact injury, but I think it's like a wrist or something, something involving his arm. Really unfortunate. He's been playing pretty well. It sounds like indefinitely, so not great. Gonna have to kind of go deeper into the rotation potentially. And some of the younger players are gonna have to step up. But yeah, not the best. Definitely not the best. Hopefully he's able to come back by playoffs, right? But we'll see how long that takes. I mean, he got injured in 22 in the finals run. He got injured, by Dylan Brooks in that Memphis series, right? But he did end up coming back in the finals, and he looked good there. But, maybe a little step slower, but he still was a factor in that series against the Celtics. So hopefully, he's had his injuries, and he is older for sure. But I'm hoping that he's able to kind of bounce back quickly, and if he's able to get into a position where he is able to play in the playoffs, hopefully he can come back sooner rather than later. But yeah, it's been kind of lackluster play. I haven't really tuned into really concentrate on the games or anything. Maybe I'll watch some highlights here and there, but it's hard to watch highlights when your team loses, right? It's been some disappointing losses. The Miami game was not good, especially, right? That was a pretty disappointing ending considering the complete fallout between Jimmy and the Heat. I think it would have been nice to see a little bit more fire from Jimmy there. The Heat got their little revenge, right? Which I don't really blame them from coming out with some play, but that doesn't excuse the lack of energy from the Warriors, right? And the lack of execution. So yeah, they need to lock in. They need to kind of get back to it, because right now the race is super tight between us, the Clippers, and the Wolves. It's neck and neck for 6th seed. I think it wouldn't be the worst scenario for the Warriors to fall into 7th, because then that would mean a first round matchup currently with the Rockets, which I think would be favorable. But regardless of that, I think that it would be beneficial to try to at least get into the playoffs and avoid the play-in, so that it allows for additional rest for all this old-ass team, right? And all of the old players that we have. I think that will definitely benefit them to an extent. But you could also argue that maybe it's more beneficial to try to get a favorable matchup, so then that the other teams in the 3 through 6th range kind of cancel each other out somehow, right? But you don't want to do that. You don't want to play the seeding game. You don't want to try to play that to your advantage necessarily. I don't think it's the best option. I did mention last year, I think the one that comes to mind where it felt like it felt like a team was trying to, intentionally try to get to a better position, was the Cavs playing against the Magic, right? It worked out for them, but it still went 7 games. You know what I mean? I just don't know if you want to really tempt fate like that, especially when it comes to playoff seeding or whatever. It just has to, you're going to eventually face off against the more difficult opponents, right? You have to face off whoever's in front of you. I just don't really believe in trying to maneuver to try to get into a better position, because I've never seen that succeed to a point where a team is able to actually win a championship, right? I mean, all of the teams that have won a championship in, just over the last 20 years or something, and this is a stat that I will continue to reiterate and just sort of state, is that there hasn't been a seed lower than 3 that have won a championship in the last like 25 plus years or something like that. And until that changes, and until some other team is like, it breaks that, somehow breaks that, that's going to hold true. The best teams in the league right now are the Cavs, the Celtics, and the Thunder, and they are the most favorable in winning the championship this year, for good reason, right? They are all top 3 seeds, right? Cavs and Thunder are both respective number 1 seeds in their conferences. Celtics are number 2, but they have, they're the defending champs, so you have to kind of give them their flowers, obviously. Like outside of that, you could argue maybe some of the teams in the top, 3, the Knicks are it's kind of you can't trust the Knicks right now, and who knows who else in the West can really be considered a contender. But that's just going to be the case, man. I would say there are 3 true contenders. Everybody else, I don't know. Is gonna fall short of that a little bit. So unless there's unless the Warriors somehow go on like a crazy run as like the 6th or 7th seed, I just don't see that that kind of stat changing anytime soon, especially not this year. So until that's gonna hold water, and until I get proven otherwise, I just don't see it happening. So it's been a bit of a kind of a down period for the Warriors. I'm hoping that they can kind of turn things around, and you got to be able to show a little something without Steph, man. Like you just gotta, like, come on, guys, like let's get your shit together. It's the end of the season. Every game remains important, as I've said, and it is important to finish strong. It is. It's very important to try to get a good finish and to get into a good position for the playoffs. So I just haven't really been watching too much basketball, to be honest. Hopefully maybe I can catch up on some of that later this weekend. I haven't really looked at the schedule. We're not playing today, so that's kind of a scratch. So maybe tomorrow I'll have to take a look. I think they're still out on the East Coast. I don't exactly remember how long that road trip is going to be, but hopefully it's hopefully they can get some more wins, because we're in a bit of a skid right now. But yeah, I think I just wanted to kind of hop on and give my thoughts on the direct that happened today. While there wasn't a ton to really delve into, I think it is interesting just considering the timing leading up to the Switch 2 direct and everything, and also what games they showed and what games they didn't show as well. I think is something to sort of make note of. But I'm excited for next week, man. This is as I've said, this is the first time that I've really been paying attention to a system launch like this, a new console launch. So I'll be there. I'll be there, and I'm gonna try to get up early to watch that. I think it's gonna be a good time. I think it'll be fun. I'm very interested in seeing what they're gonna showcase. I'll either do kind of like a little prediction this weekend or early next week before before the direct, just so I can kind of get, maybe some thoughts in there. What if I get something right? That would be kind of fun, right? It'd be cool if I get like a prediction right. I feel I rarely get anything correct with any of these presentations. So maybe that's something that I'll do before. But yeah, outside of that, I'll most likely be playing Xenoblade X when I find some time. Yeah, I have started watching. I've only watched like a couple episodes just as like a little comfort show. I started watching Spy Family. I was just like, let's just check it out. It seems cute and chill and stuff. And it is. It's great. It's a nice little show. I think it's fun. It would be nice to kind of just have that as just like a little, something to sort of just keep, watch for fun. But yeah, outside of that, I think that's it for this week and this week's episode, unless I record tomorrow or something. I don't know, or Saturday or Sunday or Monday, whatever. Until then, until tomorrow or this weekend or next week, that's going to do it for this episode. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.